Did you know that in the long, storied history of Vietnam, a nation known for its scholars, warriors, and poets, there exists a king so vile, so steeped in depravity, that history refuses to honor him with a name. Instead, he is remembered only by a single contemptuous title. They called him Vua Lợn, the Pig King. This isn't a dark fairy tale. This is the true, horrifying, and mysterious story of Lê Uy Mục and the reign of terror that almost consumed a golden dynasty. Our story begins in the late 15th century, during the golden age of the Lê dynasty. This was Vietnam's Renaissance. The dynasty's grandfather, Lê Tông, was a philosopher-king, a poet, a brilliant administrator who created laws and expanded the empire to its greatest height. He was, by all accounts, one of the greatest kings in Southeast Asian history. He built a dynasty on wisdom, justice, and Confucian ideals. But he made one mistake, a mistake that would bloom into a nightmare decades later. When his son, the gentle King Lê Hien Tông, died young in 1504, the throne was supposed to pass to the eldest, most capable heir. But in a fatal moment of courtly intrigue, the wrong son was chosen. A 15-year-old boy named Lê Tuấn ascended the throne. He would be known to history as Lê Uy Mục. For the first few months, the court held its breath, hoping the boy would grow into the role. But the facade quickly crumbled. The boy who sat on the golden dragon throne was not a scholar. He was a sadist. Lê Uy Mục despised the rituals, the poetry, and the endless meetings of the court. He was bored, and his boredom was lethal. He spent his nights drinking, wandering the capital of Tanglong in disguise, accompanied by his entourage of guards and eunuchs. They would roam the streets, and if the king saw any civilian, any woman, any man who displeased him, he would order them killed on the spot, just for his amusement. The city, once vibrant, learned to lock its doors and shutter its windows at dusk. The only sound on the streets was the laughter of the young king and the screams of his victims. He earned his nickname, the Pig King, not just for his gluttonous feasts and drunken depravity, but because, as one historian wrote, his behavior was inhuman. But the true horror was happening inside the palace walls. Lê Uy Mục was consumed by a chilling paranoia. He believed everyone was plotting against him, and his suspicion first fell on the one person who should have been untouchable, his own grandmother, the Grand Empress Dowager, the widow of the great Lê Tông. He accused her of having favored his younger brother for the throne. He accused her of wanting him dead. One night, he brought his guards to her chambers. He presented her with a choice, a cup of poison or a bolt of silk for hanging. When she refused, weeping and pleading, he ordered his guards to seize her. They dragged the elderly woman, the matriarch of the Golden Age, into the palace courtyard. And there, under the king's watchful, drunken gaze, they killed her. The murder of his own grandmother broke a seal. The Pig King's cruelty now knew no bounds. He began a systematic purge of his own blood. He hunted down the scholars and officials who had served his grandfather, accusing them of disrespect. He sent assassins to kill his own uncles and cousins. He killed his granduncles, poisoning them at a feast. His depravity became legendary. He invented new forms of execution for his own entertainment. He ordered his concubines, the women of his own harem, into acts of unspeakable degradation, forcing them to perform for his drunken court. Any who refused were executed. The royal court, once the center of Vietnamese enlightenment, was now a slaughterhouse run by a teenage monster. And this is where the story grows truly dark and deeply mysterious. The chronicles speak of the king's favorite new weapon, the ghost head cannons. These were not ordinary cannons. Lê Uy Mục, in his paranoid madness, ordered his soldiers to fire these cannons at his own people. They were packed with shrapnel, designed to inflict maximum terror. But the legend, the dark whisper, is that they were named ghost head cannons for a reason. That the king, in his sadism, would sometimes order the cannons to be loaded with the body parts of his enemies and fired over the city walls. It was an act of terror so profound it blurred the line between a king and a demon. The realm fell into chaos. The people were terrified. The nobles who had once served his family faithfully now realized they were trapped. They could not flee, and they could not survive. This left only one option: rebellion. The Pig King's own cousin, Lê Uy, who had fled the capital to escape the Purges, raised an army. He was everything Lê Uy Mục was not: calm, strategic, and supported by the people. The rebel army marched on the capital. The king's soldiers, who despised him, threw down their weapons and opened the gates. Lê Uy Mục was captured. He was found not fighting, but hiding, drunk in one of the royal gardens. His cousin, the new king, could not allow the tyrant to live. But a public execution was complicated. So he offered him the same courtesy Lê Uy Mục had offered their grandmother: a cup of poison. The Pig King, 19 years old, cornered and alone, drank it and died. But the story, the horror, does not end there. His death was not enough. The people, the soldiers, the new king, their hatred for him was so absolute, they needed to erase him, to desecrate his memory in the most gruesome way possible. They took the body of the dead king, and they did to him what he had symbolically done to his kingdom. The chronicles state that the soldiers, in a final act of utter contempt, took the corpse of Lê Uy Mục and stuffed it into the mouth of one of his own cannons. They aimed it over the palace walls, and they fired, exploding his remains, scattering them into the dark, misty air, so that not even a grave could be built for him. He was the only king in Vietnamese history to be denied a burial. He was officially demoted from king to Marquis of Muddled Virtue. The golden age of the Lê dynasty had ended. And the question that haunts historians to this day is not what he did, but why. How could a dynasty built by a philosopher-king, a poet of unrivaled wisdom, produce only 2 generations later a monster of such profound creative cruelty? Was he born a psychopath? Was he corrupted by absolute power given too young? Or was he, as some whispered, truly something inhuman? The records are clear on his crimes, but the cause of his evil remains a terrifying mystery, a black hole in the heart of a golden age.